Hello and welcome to this Fasten of Yarnalong event. Did you ever wonder what designers chat about when they meet? Today we're going to find out. My name is Marika, I'm your host, and for this designer conversation, we're lucky to have with us Laurie Harrison from Aklori Designs, Kerry Bullock-Ozkan from Bullock-Ozkan Designs, if I'm correct. Um, Please introduce yourself to the viewers.
I guess I'll go first. My name's Lori. I'm the designer behind Aklori Designs. I've been creating Tunisian crochet designs exclusively since 2017. I specialize in wearables, so garments, shawls, hats, those sort of things. And I have two books out. A couple years ago, I came out with a how-to book. It teaches you how to Tunisian crochet and goes through a bunch of the various techniques. And I came out with a stitch dictionary earlier this year. So,
Thank you, Laurie. Carrie?
I'm Kerry Bullock-Ozkan. I'm a knitting pattern designer and also tech editor. I've been designing since about 2016. And I have originally studied engineering and specifically air and water quality. And so I consider knitting as one part of my sustainability practice. And so I design accessories and garments with an eye to designing items that you'll want to wear for a long time. And I also love to use local to me and breed specific yarns to highlight local businesses and sustainable businesses when possible.
Thank you. It's good to get to know you too. You are both engineers, if I'm correct.
yes.
Uh,
And we're both, and like, I love sustainability too. So I feel like we are definitely kindred spirits in a lot of ways, just in different crafts.
Great.
For sure, for sure.
This will become a lovely conversation. You should have been joined by two other designers, but unfortunately, they couldn't make it. So we hope that just the two of you can take it away and chat amongst yourself. We have decided on the topic for this conversation, and we asked you about inspiration. What's your inspiration? How is your process from inspiration to the end design? And maybe show us the design. And I'm really curious if you, as two engineers, draw inspiration from the same things or if they are different. Um, Please go ahead, take it away. Maybe start by sharing your process for a particular design, Carrie.
Sure. I'm inspired a lot by the materials. I guess as an engineer, that's not terribly surprising. I love to work with color and texture, and I love to get new design or new yarns to swatch. That's just swatching and trying out things is a big part of my process. Um, and Love to design things that highlight the yarn that I'm using. So my example is this shawl behind me here, and I'll bring it up closer so that you can see. Um, this yarn started with this is a fin wool. It's from a farm that is pretty close to me, and bought it at a yarn festival.
Where do you live?
And North Carolina.
Oh, cool. Okay, so fair amount of sheep.
Yeah, so these guys are up in Virginia. Unfortunately, they're no longer raising their fin sheep, but she also the wife behind this family farm is a lovely dyer, and I really loved her colors. And so I had this also started with a design constraint. You'll appreciate this as an engineer because I had one single skein with 200 yards of this.
That's not much at
um,
all.
no. So it's called the Basket of Blossom shawl because I was inspired by the color name, which the color name was Phlox. And then I decided because I used the textured stitches, I thought it sort of looked like a basket, so I called it Basket of Blossoms.
That's
Which is one thing I'd love. I'd be really curious about your process for naming patterns because that's always a struggle for me.
oh
Um,
gosh, yeah.
but
But I totally get the like the shape of the design being constrained by,
so
stuff
I
because
decided to sort of start from the tip and see how far I could get, right?
yeah.
And being a shawl, since you often see the wrong side, I wanted it to be completely reversible. So I chose to use a reversible cable along the edge,
Oh,
and
cool.
so there's both sides. I'm not very good at this, and also a reversible sort of broken rib pattern.
That's so pretty.
Um, and so it
But
gave me, yeah, so it's just, it's just a tiny little kind of kerchief that you can secure with a shawl pin. And it's easily portable. So, and it's a nice spring color. So I think it's good for those spring days when it's a little chilly.
yeah, no, I totally, yeah, like there's definitely been some yarn that, especially since Tunisian crochet uses a little more than knitting. I don't think people tend to say it uses a lot more. I don't actually believe that, but you just need to make the right density of fabric. But it's like, yeah, okay, triangle shawls, they're great because they have long tips on the end, so you can like kind of stretch it out and make it last longer.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that, trying to fix things in and, I don't know about you. I spend a ton of time swatching because I'm like obsessed with textures. Like the thing I was bringing was like this guy. It was a whole
Mm.
bunch of different stitch patterns that I thought were fun, and it's like how can I also make it work with like one skein per color, So I'm creating, a capelet that, is big and fun and stuff, but it's like people can then use it like with what they have in their stash. They can grab 5 skeins of
Mhm.
yarn and know that they'll have something at the end still without running out. So it's like, yeah, trying to make sure that you're getting the right amount of yarn for, what you want to do, just barely, right?
And are those all the same yarn, or did you use different yarns from your stash?
For me, I actually worked with a yarn company. This is from Leading Men Fiber Arts, but it was meant to be 5 single skeins so that you could do it.
Okay.
This year, I am trying to work from stash a lot because I'm like, I just have too much yarn and it
Don't
stresses
we
me
all?
out. And I'm like, I just want to use it. Like I just finished like a skinny scarf made out of like leftover yarn from other patterns, and I was like, well, let's just make it all go away, so I have an excuse to buy more.
Of course. And do
Do you
you
work
have a
from?
particular weight that you
Uh,
use the most?
um, It depends on what I'm doing. If like Tunisian crochet does tend to be a little denser than knitting and stuff like that. So I try not to go too heavy. I live in Arizona, so you probably also warmer climates. It's like I'm never gonna wear
Yeah.
anything bulky. Worsted weight is like for really just for winter things. I like to work more in DK to fingering for most of what I do. Especially if like garments. Garments need to be fingering weight for me because I won't wear something that is worsted weight ever. It is just not that cold. How about you?
I'm probably the same. I tend to prefer the finer weights, fingering to DK. Um, yeah, I like, sort of 3 season garments. I have one or two things that are heavier, but that's kind of my sweet spot. And I love to do color work, and there's so much available in fingering weight that I tend like I have my little over here, I have my little paint box of colors
Oh, nice.
of just odds and ends. Mostly Shetland wool because they come in so many colors and you can get the little tiny balls, but I have a few other things too. Um, and that's always nice to have, if I want to do some color work, I can go swatch with what I have there on hand. And um, so I have way too much fingering weight. I'm
How do you
trying to,
keep track of it all?
uh,
How do you keep track of it all? Like, you have a bucket there? Do you actually know which each of them are?
I keep the labels, and for the most
Okay.
part, I do. Every once in a while, I find a mystery skein that I have to figure out what it is. but it's mostly like I said, a lot of it is like the Jameson Shetland. So I know what that is. And I kind of keep my yarn by weight, so that makes it easier to tell. But I'm also, trying to design things with folks in mind that maybe don't want to do a color work sweater in fingering weight yarn. So
Oh yeah, that is
it's a
always the tough
balance.
part. People are like, I
Yeah.
need to be making something with 1,200 yards of, fingering weight, but oh, I wear it more. I assume most people actually probably wear fingering weight stuff because, like you said, it's 3 seasons. I can layer it up. I can,
Hmm.
wear it on its own sometimes, depending on what it is. I, but yeah, selling it, convincing people to work with that. But yeah, I don't like fingering weight color work isn't all that common, is it? Or
Well, I guess it's the most common for like Shetland and
okay,
Faroe designs. Of course, Icelandic tends to use heavier weight yarns. It depends on, I don't know. I think of fingering as the color work weight, but I mean
okay,
that is probably is sort of regionally specific. Um, I think in Scandinavia they use kind of fingering to like heavy fingering sport weight a lot.
okay.
So, which sport weight is kind of hard to find around here. That's actually sort of my sweet spot. But
Yeah,
in the US, there's becoming more available, but it's harder to find than fingering or DK.
yeah, I did a sport weight cardigan at the beginning of this year, and like, yeah, one of the biggest feedbacks on it was like, I don't have any sport weight. What am I going to do with this? So, which is sad, but okay. I learned.
Well, that's
Go
sort
back
of a
to
chicken and egg thing too, because like I said, it's becoming more available in the US, but then there's not a lot of patterns. So if I buy a sweater quantity, what am I going to make with it?
yeah, that's totally fair. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah. So, okay, everybody, you need to go buy more sport weight yarn and make our sport weight garments.
Uh, I'm going to jump in and mention, hey, we discovered you are both engineers. Can you tell us if that influences your design process?
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna say that I have a lot of designer friends, and so we chat and stuff, and you can tell, there's people like Shayna who is an architect, and like our design processes, as far as I can tell, are actually fairly different. I am very methodical with stuff. I do a lot of swatching. I don't want to get to the end of a thing and decide and find out that I made a garment that only works on 3 sizes because things just don't line up. So I do a ton of math, a ton of calculations before I ever actually start making mine because I am also want to be efficient in my crafting time because I do have a full-time job and spending 40 hours on something that I have to fully rip out is painful. So, there's a lot of prep work before actually really truly digging into a design, like swatching, calculations, you know, calculations to make sure I don't run out of yarn, that sort of thing. How about you, Carrie?
I'm I think I'm methodical in some ways, and I kind of like go back and forth in my design process. I definitely try to do some calculations up front because, like you said, you don't want to end up with like a motif that's only going to work in one size. So I try to have an idea and kind of have my basic calculations done before I start. And then I kind of tend to knit section by section and adjust as I go. Um, I probably don't do actually as much swatching as I should. um, I always make sure to get a good gauge swatch, of course, but I don't know. I kind of always have a vision in my head when or very often. Like I'll swatch a couple different stitch patterns with a new yarn and see sort of what it works with, and then I'll kind of go from there. And I'll often just kind of form a vision in my head and I'll go with it. Um, but yeah, but and I do tend to reknit a fair amount because I will not like the shaping, I'll tweak the shaping, or I won't be quite sure what I want to do with the neckline when I get there. So I do leave a little bit of open ended, but I have enough. I do enough math to make sure that the sizes are going to work, because then otherwise I've put a lot of time in that, you know, for something that wasn't worth it.
Yeah, no, I'll say that I don't have my design finalized by any means when I am starting on it. Having something like, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I want, the neck to look like or the collar or something like that. That definitely happens where it's like I do have stuff and I have a plan, and sometimes I follow the plan. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this isn't working how I wanted. Let's go
Mm-hmm.
fix it and stuff like that. I'm if it's a shawl or something, I can just go because it doesn't matter if like the end shape is whatever the end shape happens to be, right? But yeah, anything that requires any fit, I do a ton of math first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
So,
just haven't quite gotten to the point where I can, write it up and hand it off to a sample knitter. I really still have to work through it myself in order to
oh yeah.
finalize everything. I admire designers that can work with a sample knitter, but I'm not there yet.
Oh, I can't even contemplate that. It's like how I don't know. Yeah, I don't trust my ability to visualize it that good unless it's literally just a change in motif on something that has identical grading to something that already existed. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm with you there. And plus, sometimes it's like even if like my numbers are perfect, I get to a point and I'm like, actually, this increase looks better here than this other increase, and I didn't, that kind of stuff where it's like you're making some design decisions as you go. I know I need an increase, but exactly what stitch I use for that increase kind of has to be worked in real time to know if I'm going to really like what it looks like as I continue on. So I hear you. So, yes, Marika was asking about, yeah, our design process. So, um, and we have 9 minutes left. So I'll just very quickly go through mine and then maybe Kerry can go through hers. I tend to swatch. I do a lot of drawing too. I have my iPad and I sketch things all over the place, and I have way more sketches in my iPad than I could possibly ever possibly design. Um, it tends to lead to, swatching, finding the right yarn, because not all yarn works well with all designs, Sometimes I think a yarn's going to be perfect and it's just not showing whatever I want it to show, that sort of thing. I tend to at least jot down a pattern on how I want it to go, and then I fill it in as I go most of the time. So I'm like, okay, you know, I work for, this many rows doing this, and then I do stuff. And that's kind of my design process. There is some back and forth, but it's tends to be very much a concept drawing, swatch, make, adjust. So, how about you, Carrie?
Yeah. It's funny because I would like to draw things out more, but I feel like I'm a terrible drawer. So if I have to do a drawing for a sketch for a submission, like that's the last thing I do. Um, I will
Oh, I'm not
if I
saying
have an
I'm good
idea in
at
my
it.
head, I will do a really
I
rough
mean,
sketch.
this means nothing to anybody but me, but it's the concepts are down, right?
Yeah, well, I will sometimes do a rough sketch so I don't forget what I was thinking of. I'll write if I don't have time to work on it. Um, but yeah, I usually start. Sometimes I start with a yarn that I want to use because it just sort of feels like it lends itself to something. Um, Sometimes it's, like for a submission, sometimes there will be a design prompt that will inspire me. Because I have done some designs for magazines and things, and then um, sometimes a idea just sort of pops into my head fully formed every once in a while. That doesn't happen very often, but
Those are
once
the
in a
best.
while, yeah. Sometimes it'll just pop into my head in a dream even, but I will I then take that and I'll go through my swatches. I'll decide on, like my color palette, and which that's one of the things that can take the longest with color work, I feel like, is deciding on my colors, which is also that's kind of also the fun part. So it's not the worst thing. Um, and then I usually will do some calculations, and I kind of write my patterns as I knit. So I'll like write one section, then I'll knit it to make sure that it works, and then I'll kind of move on to the next section. So I kind of do it section by section. Um, and yeah, like I said, I kind of work out some of the details as I go, but always kind of have my basic math set beforehand. So there's spreadsheets, and if there's a chart, I will usually um, I'll usually chart out the stitch pattern and then work from the chart to make sure that's working also.
I do that too. Yeah, like anytime I have something that's charted, and so it's a lot easier for me to visually work things out like that versus writing it
Mm-hmm.
down and stuff. So
Yeah, I find that too. I find that too. Charts are really helpful.
I say that as many of my patterns don't have charts, and Marika's probably going to like immediately mention that. Tunisian crochet charts are less common because there's not a lot of standardization. So sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's really needed, I don't put it in there because it's going to probably cause people more pain than it helps.
Yeah. Well,
But
speaking of
you,
stitch patterns, so tell us a little bit about the process of your book.
which is filled with charts.
Oh, the Stitch Dictionary. Yeah. This came out.
Yeah.
It's a beast. It's 2.5 pounds, so that's like almost 5 kilos.
It's a
Um,
great resource though. I have it. It's
oh, thank you. That's
I'm kind of a
fantastic.
newbie Tunisian crocheter, so
Oh, well, that's awesome. So, basically what happened was is there is actually not a lot of Tunisian crochet, stitch dictionaries or books of that just compile stitches. But there's so many different types of Tunisian crochet stitches out there. Um, and I, as a designer, like I've been frustrated by the lack of reference material compared to like knit and crochet stuff. So I basically, probably mm, it was before my other book even came out. So it was like 2.5 years ago. I was like, okay, I want to make the book that I want. Um, and so I did. And it has, um, one of the things is like, I feel like a lot of Stitch dictionaries, all they have is the swatch and then some sort of instruction section. Let me move to some other page. And it was like, I want more than that. I also want to know, what the backside looks like. I want to know where I'm going to supposed to, put my hooks in and stuff. I should have probably picked a good page before this interview and stuff, but it was I wanted more information in there so that I don't have to figure out like what is this stitch actually doing? How are you making this happen? Verbally, sometimes explaining where to stick your hook is not enough. So, um, and my publishing company was like, okay, let's do a book with 300 stitches because that's, like 150 more than the closest one that's currently available. And I was like, sure. And then I got to 300 stitches and I was like, but there's so many more. So I just kept going and going and going and going. And at 501 seemed like a good stopping point because like 503 seemed weird. So we're like, we're just gonna go just over 500. And it was I have so many swatches, and I never thought I'd be swatching that much, but I'm glad I did because I use it all the time.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you for
So,
sharing, Lori, and thank you for sharing as well, Kerry, about your process and inspirations. We're nearing the end time of this conversation, and I want to give the audience a chance that if they have questions to ask them. So if there's a question, please pop it in the chat so we can see. Lori just plugged her amazing book. I can vouch for it. I use it a lot as well. Kerry, is there something you want to show off, highlight, maybe something that you can share a sneak peek of for 2026,
Well,
2026.
um, unfortunately, I can't show it yet, but I have a pattern coming out in the Kelborn Woolens Year of Hats next year, and I
Can you say
think
that
it's going
again?
the Kelborn Woolens Year of Hats.
Is that something
I
we should all be aware of?
so they did this for it's for the Germantown DK. They did this a couple years ago for the Germantown worsted. And so it's one free hat pattern a month. And I think mine is going to be the October one. The January 1st one is obviously going to come out very soon this week. And there are going to be kits available for each pattern, but the patterns are going to be free. So
Cool. Well,
Congrats.
yes.
thank you. So watch out for that.
Lori, there's been a question especially addressed to you in the chat. How did you get into Tunisian crochet? And please keep it short because we're short on time.
Um, basically, when the pussy hats were being made by lots of people due to problems in my home country of the United States, I went to the yarn store to go get yarn for some in hot pink. And when I was there, they were showing off a Tunisian crochet scarf, and it was what I now know as Tunisian full stitch. And I was like, wow, that is a really fun fabric. And so I asked them what it was, and I went home with a 6.5 millimeter hook, the long, Susan Bate ones that are awful, but it's a great first starter one. And I went to YouTube and I learned Tunisian crochet, and I was like, this is so fun. So, and I've never looked back since then. And it's just been a fun exploration for me. As an engineer, I want to see all the different ways I can twiddle a stitch. And it definitely fulfills that, you know, inquisitive as well as like artistic part of me. So, is that short enough?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Um, well, thank you both Lori and Kerry for joining this conversation. We were happy you were here and talked so much about your inspiration and design business. Thanks so much for everyone else for coming out. We hope you enjoyed today's designer video panel, and check out all the other videos already uploaded on our YouTube channel that we recorded this event. The event is almost done, 31st of December 2026 it ends. But if you want to keep track of everything Fasten Off Yarnalong involves, please sign up to our newsletter. We'll put a link in the description below, as well as links to Lori's and Kerry's websites. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
us.
everybody.